Hey, Kevin here, top 100 financial advisor, two-time author, one-time bestseller, and we are here to talk about the stock market. Whew, it was a very interesting day in the cannabis investing world because just yesterday we had talked about Tilray and how it will or could perform like it did in 2018, where it was really low, it shot really high, and then popped and vanished and was a terrible investment right after that. Well, I expected that to happen over a few weeks. It happened, at least right now, within a day. Yesterday, Tilray was up 50%. Today, Tilray was down almost 50%. Ridiculous. But this is why you can go back and watch yesterday's video and watch in slow motion if you have to. This is why I said number one, probably not for new investors. Number two, if you do it, you want to have some protections in place. You want to have a stop loss order so that if things don't go the way you expect them to, you are going to be okay. These are the things that I said, and I'll give you an example and then give you some things that you should be thinking about over the next few weeks and months. So I was up $60 or so yesterday, and remember I said if you do, it needs to be throwaway money. I would have preferred to spend the money that I spent on Tilray on a PS5. I just can't get one. I keep trying and I just can't get one. So I would have preferred to just blow it on PS5, but I didn't. So put it in Tilray yesterday. I had that stop loss as well as a sell limit, which means that if it drops to a certain level, it sells out, I get a profit anyway. And if I don't get a profit, I limit my losses so I didn't lose the entire amount. Or if it hits a certain level and continues to go up, I get my profit and I walk away. I don't have to worry about it. And most importantly, all of this stuff is automatic. So when I'm taking care of my kids in the morning, I'm feeding, both kids breakfast and doing all the stuff I got to do as a dad. I don't need to be sitting here glued to my phone and worrying about what happened. And that's exactly what happened. I think it was by 9:33, I got an alert about, said, hey, look, you sold Tilray at X price. I'm thinking, oh, Tilray must be shooting up again. It was up 50% yesterday. Maybe it's doing something crazy. Maybe it's up 20, 25% today. Who knows? I made some money. I go check the app and it's down 25% within the first 10 minutes of the stock market being open. And my $60 profit that I had was down to $6, but it was still a $6 profit because I had that stop loss. And I made sure that after the stock went up, I moved that stop loss up and said, look, if it drops, at least you get something out of this, right? And that's what happened. So it's why I urge seasoned investors to do this. If you're new and you've never invested before and you don't have throwaway money and you need your money to seriously grow, that's not a place that you want to be, go look at public for my long-term investments like the Googles, the Facebooks, perhaps Square. That kind of stuff is where you want to be, as well as index funds. Don't sleep on index funds. That's why I've been preaching those and talk way more about those than the crazy stuff that's out here. So as I said, I showed you guys yesterday, I practice what I preach. I put that protection measure in and I was okay, right? Not everybody did that. But it's why I said, number one, avoid it if you haven't done these types of things before. And number two, if you do, then you want to have some measure of protection because you never know what's going to happen. So what do I expect from Tilray? How do I think investors should play this move? There are a few things that you need to know, as well as cryptocurrency too, because there's a little alley where I think everybody can profit from this. So you got your risky people, you got your people who are just like, look, I'm not trying to do all that, and you got your long-term people. How do all investors profit from these types of moves? So let's get into that. So for Tilray, Aurora Cannabis, Canopy Growth, Altheria, Sundial, all these cannabis companies that took off yesterday and really just crashed today. This may not be the end. That's not telling you to hold. That's not telling you to buy. I'm out on them. I'm completely neutral right now because we don't know what's going to happen. Anytime stuff takes off like it did yesterday and crashes like it did today, can very well just take off the next day or continue to crash. So you never actually know in what direction that kind of stuff is going to go. We saw this from GameStop and we see it from AMC almost every day, where AMC is up 13% one day and down 26% the next. You don't know, right? So again, you really want to be careful if you're deciding to go in that space. I do think, unlike GameStop, these companies make more sense based on where we are with Congress. That does not mean that legislation is going to be passed, because we saw this in 2018 when most of these exact same companies took off and then crashed weeks later. So just throwing it out there, it could be very similar to 2018, or this could be something completely different where they actually do end up doing well for the long term. I just don't think that's likely right now. Until I see something on CNN or the Washington Post that says their legalization is up for a vote, that's when I'm going to actually be excited and then reevaluate these companies from a more realistic standpoint as opposed to a really short term thing. So I haven't seen that happen. If it does, feel free to shoot a legitimate link in the comments, but I ain't seen it. And until I do, I'm not really going to take these companies seriously until that thing happens. Right now, it's all hope and hype that things will happen and hopefully blah 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 blah. If it ain't on Congress's desk and it ain't on CNN and it ain't on Washington Post or wherever you get your legitimate news, then it's really a hope right now. So if you're looking for high risk, which I don't think many of us should, and if you do, measure that risk, make sure it's not more than 5% of your overall portfolio, preferably less than that. But it needs to be throwaway money. It needs to be a very, very tiny bit of your portfolio. If you profit, great. If you don't, you got a stop loss in place, so you're not going to lose everything. You can really, really limit that to something very, very small. So that's what I would do if you're looking into that space directly. If you don't want to invest in that space, but you do want to profit, look for those pick and shovel plays. As I mentioned, Scott's Miracle-Gro supplies a lot of the stuff that these companies need to do well. So if those companies do well, Scott's Miracle-Gro is one of the companies that can do well with it. And without it, Scott's Miracle-Gro can still be fine because they're their own standalone industry that has been doing fine. They did well last year. We'll see how they do this year, but that's one direction. Another thing to consider when it comes to cryptocurrencies, y'all saw how Dogecoin did, and it ain't been great over the last 24 hours or so, at least from screenshots people have sent me. What people did the last 2 days was pour into Square and PayPal, which are two stocks that we talked about at the end of last year. I was telling you I was debating between the two. I ended up picking Square. I got PayPal for my son because they were both really good. Those companies have exposure to Bitcoin, and we had talked about Bitcoin and Tesla and all that kind of stuff. That's another way. Like, you don't have to own Bitcoin directly because it's not for everybody, but I can get Square, which has access to Bitcoin. I can get PayPal that's access to Bitcoin. So when Bitcoin does well, Square and PayPal also do well. So I can be linked to it without actually owning it because Bitcoin is still volatile. It did well for a bit and then didn't do well. And not everybody is okay with those ups and downs. So you have to make that decision for yourself. But Square and PayPal are two ways that you can get into it without getting into it directly, right? And each of these methods has their pros and cons. So know that as well. But that's one way that you can profit without being directly in that space. Because if you like to avoid risk, or that level of risk rather, you don't have to be in cannabis directly. You can get Scott's Miracle-Gro. You don't have to be in Dogecoin and Bitcoin directly. You can get Square and PayPal. And I think Square and PayPal are a little more easier to evaluate, a little less hyped, a little less manipulated, meaning you got Wall Street bets and whoever just crowding the market and pumping up a stock. More difficult for them to do that with companies that have been around for a while and companies that are priced at $200 a share, $150 a share, because people can't afford to really do it that easily. When it's Dogecoin is less than a penny, then everybody can get 1 million shares, right? So, or 1 million coin, or however it works. So you just want to be careful there. All right, so that is it for me. Just wanted to let you guys know, if you do that risky stuff, you need to have some protections in place, just like I did. So I walked away with $6. Hooray. It's better than losing 40 something percent. But again, the real money, the big money, it's in all the index funds. This is all the companies that we know and we know will still be here when the whole thing is over. And then also there are other ways that you can profit too. All right, let me know what you think in the comments. I'll talk to you later. Let me know what you guys think in the comments, and I can't even get it out. I'll talk to you later. Bye.